Welcome to John and Dylan Online, a show where two comedians talk about internet history and, you know what, just stuff sometimes. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are watching this, we are in my goddamn garage, baby.
Woo!
There's someone right behind that door trying to park. I'm not letting them. Sitting with me is John Hastings.
Ladies and gentlemen, this week we're talking about the greatest internet sports clip of all time, a broadcaster being shoved to the ground, and that broadcaster is Jim Rome. We're in the jungle, baby! You're gonna die! So
That is a dope. That is a dope fucking.
let's talk about that clip off the top. Let's do it.
You want to go right to
I
the-
want to go right to it.
Yeah,
Let's
okay.
So set the stage for me.
Set the stage. Okay, so Jim Rome, who is, I don't want to say, I'm sure there was people like this beforehand, but from what I'm gathering, like one of the first like sports shock jocks. So shock jocks become like really popular.
So in the 90s,
This isn't fair, by the way, because your fucking stool is also higher than mine. I realize, and I'm already shorter than you.
Yeah.
So now it looks like I'm fucking. All right. So
Alpha side.
this is. I'm just gonna finish a squat for this whole episode.
I'm just doing
Yeah,
penis.
full pants.
So that is totally correct. In the 90s in America, so this is a very weird thing. A lot of American large markets, this is going to sound crazy, are never music focused when it comes to radio. They're all talk radio based. Particularly the big ones are LA and New York. The music stations there are not big. I live in LA, and people still listen to talk radio there in the way that like you'd hear about 15 years ago. And Jim Rome very cleverly just heard Howard Stern be like, we're going to get some prostitutes and throw baloney at them. And Jim Rome was like, I'm going to do that, but to Wayne Gretzky.
Yeah.
And did it.
We will have an episode about Skip Bayless because literally Skip Bayless, the reason he broke through as a sports personality was he just wrote a book and in it was like, and Troy Aikman's gay. And
Oh,
then
it's-
Troy Aikman was like, listen, I'm not gay. But it's like one of those things where it's like, what's a thing that obviously the quarterback for the literally like the quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys in that time was like the president of the United States of sports. What's something that he will have to respond to and it's just like you're gay and he was like basically came out on TV was like I'm not fucking gay.
Yeah.
Okay? You're gay. How does that but Jim Rome calls Jim Everett
Oh, yes.
who is not the quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys. Jim Everett is a gargantuan of a man. He's a good quarterback in the NFL. He's one of those guys, any sport, anything you follow, where it's like this guy's tagged to be really good. He's just kind of okay for his entire career. And because
Here
he
is-
fails, what does he call him?
He calls him Chris Everett, which is the
Which
name
is
of a lady tennis player.
Which is a fucking chick, dude.
Yeah, fuck, you're a fucking woman, bro.
Also,
But hang on,
by the
but
way-
hang on. We have to stop and
No, go
discuss
for it.
Jim
Yeah.
Everett. Because here's the thing with Jim Everett, and he's a classic. For those of you that are not American sports personalities, you know the kind of man that
If for those of you listening to this aren't Shannon Sharp or Skip Bayless or Stephen A. Smith.
if you here's what you have to understand. That Jim Everett is just a man that in every other situation that isn't an NFL locker room, he is the toughest and greatest man ever. No one has ever told Jim Everett anything he hasn't liked in 25 years. And then a man with a goatee who is not 6 foot. So technically
Doesn't have the goatee yet.
Oh, he doesn't have the goatee yet. Very good point. He's a fresh-faced smacked ass
But
from
that's what
Orange
he does.
County.
Jim Rome does the exact same thing that
Oh.
my prime minister Justin Trudeau did when he got caught doing blackface. Is Jim Rome basically? They both look like assholes, and
Oh.
it's not in the past. Like I found like Sports Center in 1994 where they're like, yeah, they both look like fucking idiots. And also, someone makes the great point of like Chris Everett as a tennis player was like a multiple-time champion.
Oh, it's the craziest
one of the
thing.
greatest tennis players of all time. So if anything, it's like just that you're being called a chick is the insult, but it's like if you look at them, like Jim Everett, obviously professional athlete, never won shit, and he was like fine. So it's like, hey, you're way better at this than I don't know. It's insane.
What's fascinating because at the time the controversy was not that it wasn't that Chris Everett was good at tennis. It was just like, first of all, you never call a man a woman's name. What were you thinking?
Oh,
Second
yeah.
of all, Jim did nothing wrong. And now it's sort of changed, which was pretty fucked up what Jim Rome did. Also, you like pretty fucked up what Chris Everett did, because they're having a Jim Everett, pardon me. Whoops. They're having an interview on Jim Rome's very weird ESPN2 show called, I think, Talk 2. So you also have to understand, this is at the launch of ESPN, has become the biggest thing ever. And this is the rip-roaring 90s, baby. Clinton's in the White House. Everyone's getting their dicks sucked. There is no welfare. If you are a company, the wheels are off, baby. Expand. So ESPN2 is launched. ESPN needs
I wanted
people.
to correct you, but yeah, this is the launch of ESPN2, and this is like
So this is the annoying thing
very
about me.
formula. This is very formulaic in that this is how people figure out that what formula will work on sports television forever, which is like, let's just fucking be assholes. And this is the type of shit that makes sports broadcasting almost dead now, and why athletes are the only ones to do it, because of course they don't want someone just you know what I mean?
You're absolutely correct. And what's amazing about also that Jim Rome show is all of the executives that went on to run ESPN now effectively into the ground came out of that show.
Oh, wow.
So it's all of. By the way, I am the most annoying type of person in that I do not care for sports, but I love media stories. So I have read twice the history of ESPN because it is so endlessly fascinating. It's basically the story of like, we've discovered a diamond mine and it's never going to run out. And there's like 3 people be like, it's going to run out soon. And they're like, fuck you. So Jim Rome is discovered in this time where they're staffing up ESPN2, and you're exactly correct. He essentially invents a type of sports broadcasting, which is like, you think you're so... what makes you a Super Bowl champion better than me, a guy who had to get his wife to get a jar off the top shelf? Name one way you're better at basketball than me, Michael Jordan. I'm Jim Rome. I've got lifts in my shoes.
Well, it's just like, it's the exact same thing. It's just being infuriating. Like, a guy wins, exactly. Michael Jordan wins his first title, and it's like, well, he's not shit. He's not like Magic until he's won 2. It's that immediate, like, you can't just watch the game.
Oh, my God. You've also
and it's like what athletes get upset with, which is no one actually talks about the fucking game, like the nuts and bolts of the game. Like, they're not going on ESPN being like, well, when they ran this pin down screen, the zone didn't adjust to it, which is what led to it. They're like, he doesn't have the guts. When it's like, there's so much fucking shit going on. Like, the reason that this guy fucks up for a second, so that guy on the right looks like an asshole, but it's the guy on the fucking left stuttering that made, you know what I mean?
To further what you're saying is, look at how Pat McAfee talks about football. They actually are they actually are doing a very in-depth analysis, but they're just talking about it like they've had 4 Captains and Cokes while driving to the studio. Like we've literally gone full circle now in sports media where you have Pat McAfee wearing a sleeveless shirt being like, let me tell you something, bro, I like 2 things. Vodka Red Bulls, and I want to see a proper dispersion of defense when you're on the 10th yard line. You gotta concentrate on unnecessary touchdown. And you're like, but it's now this weird thing of they're talking like the athletes are talking like the broadcasters, but they're being positive and actually providing analysis, as opposed to what Jim Rome still does to this day, which is he takes an hour to be like, I think the LA Kings are okay. But he's like, let me tell you, I was once there. I got the pretzel. I got the nacho cheese hat. No, someone did not tip their hat to me. Let me tell you, who doesn't tip their hat properly. The valets at the LA Kings games, I don't really care. And like, it's watching this whole thing. You're like, what the fuck? So Jim Everett goes on Jim Rome's show, Dylan. And what happens when he calls him Chris the
One
first time?
thing I wanted to talk about, sorry, you're getting a real look into what a research-based podcast is, because when you film these other podcasts live, and it's like just another name, but it's 2 comedians talking shit, they can engage with each other, but I'm just looking at my phone the whole time to try and organize my notes.
I prefer that.
This blew my mind before we talk about it. Is his real name is Jim Rome.
You didn't know his name was Jim Rome?
I thought he was. Here's what I would have bet my house on the fact that this was an Italian man who's like, all right, you can't pronounce my name? It's Rome then, bro. And that was like from years ago, which is still made up. But his name is James Philip Rome, the craziest, most English name I've ever heard in my life.
Correct. Now, here's the thing you need to know about.
It's insane in its normalcy.
So here's the thing: is the reason why you would assume that wasn't his real name is because you've never worked in radio before, so you've not been exposed. And I'm saying this as we are stand-up comedians. We have been exposed to some of the most unnecessary egos on the planet. You don't have a house, and you're literally like, you think you're better than me? I do think I'm better than you.
Stand-up is nuts, where it's like, I remember some guy was asking me for advice, and I was like, oh, that's cool. You have a house in Forest Hill where Drake lives.
Yeah.
Why don't you give me... I'll tell you how to make that joke about licking ass clean, and you give me the advice that will result in $100,000, please.
I am currently drafting a letter to send to a wealthy producer in the UK that is just, hey, you know how we've discussed projects? How about you just give me 10 grand? Because here's what I've decided. What's the worst he's going to do? Say no? All right.
Well,
I still don't have 10 grand.
This guy told me one way you can do it, which you would never do with a guy in a Puma zip-up, but you just sell... You have streams of income, and you go, I'll sell you that stream of income directly to someone, which is
I like how
crazy.
I love how business people talk because they always talk in these sort of like, they're like, here's what you just got to do. You just got to get a unicorn horn and then sell that to a unicorn Luther. And then they always sound
You
like,
wear shoes, right? Yeah, convince him that wearing shoes is a job you have and get him to give you $100,000 a year.
it's really simple. You just got to figure out a way to turn a thing into something that kills about 40,000 people over the course of its industry's lifetime. You're going to have billions of dollars.
Does it
baby.
hurt the earth? Then you're in business.
Yeah, is there any way that you could make sure that there is eventually some sort of video of someone in a lot of cloth crying by the side of a mud road?
Okay, here we go. Jim Everett. Ooh, you wanted to recreate this.
Shall we recreate it?
Yeah, I think there's
All
too
right.
much shit around.
There's too much shit
actually.
around. But essentially what happens is, first
Check
of all...
this out. Watch this.
No, but we have to set the
You're
stage.
clearly Jim Everett.
I'm clearly Jim Everett.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're weirdly clearly
Especially
Chris
since you picked
Everett.
the big stool. Yeah, I'm Chris Everett. I'm
Yeah, you're just-
excellent at tennis.
You're excellent at
Imagine
you
if I
would
was
not
good at tennis.
you would not let me ask you this. Do
Maybe
you,
the game I've
can we
been
just
like,
stop?
Okay.
Have you ever watched tennis? Do you watch tennis?
I've watched it a bit, actually.
How weird did you find it when we lived in the UK that they act like tennis is on the same level as other, like, tennis is fine, but tennis is like golf. Like, it's like, come on, like, shut up.
I find it weird that tennis is elitist.
That's, I kind of, like, I agree. Like, it's not
You need some shoes and some couple balls. You don't need golf. I get it, where it's like, what's the barrier to entry to golf? Well, first of all, you have to get a membership at a course.
But no,
that's
but you see,
hard.
but this is the
And
inverse.
then 900 clubs.
But
and
golf, much more in the UK, is not that. Especially in Scotland, golf is not a posh game. It's a working class game, and this was explained to me by a
well, this
security
is the
guard
interesting
rolling a
thing.
cigarette.
Yeah, if you're not from England, rugby is the posh game, and soccer or football is the working class game.
Well, that how you know, because all the rugby players are still wearing polo shirts.
Well, the rugby players are, it's like they smash each other's head and then they're like, let's talk business.
Yeah.
And then, kick a ball around. And then
1,000 apologies, Clive.
they all just need a ball, though. Not like American football, which also is a game for people, the working class, but you need $900,000.
Yeah.
Because that's America, baby. Anyway, go.
Nothing greater ever, by the way, than watching two American tourists at I think it was the Cannon in Teddington, walked in to watch a rugby match. Teddington, a part of London.
Ooh.
And they literally, it was like watching a dog trying to comprehend a computer that they couldn't believe that France was good at a sport. It was the bad. They're like, it was the Six Nations or Seven Nations, whatever that's called, and France was just kicking the shit out of some team, and these two Yanks at the bar were like, why is France good at rugby? And I was just like, they have men there too, sir.
No, they don't.
No.
No, they all make
so-
souffles and then bang each other in the poop.
Oh my God, what a country that would be. What are we doing today? Same thing we do every day. Eat a souffle and then have anal sex? What a wonderful society.
What a horrible, also the implication that French men have anal sex is like the buttery food, and then like you wouldn't be able to have anal sex past 30. Just you immediately
not fair.
shitting, and then you're like, I'm gonna fuck you. I want to get a disease. We're gonna get a new horrible disease running through our population every 8 seconds.
What about French cinema doesn't
You could open
lead-
that fridge. John, by the way, has his hand on a fridge.
What about French cinema
And
doesn't...
if I get in trouble here, fucking round up in the mouth. Uh-oh.
What about French cinema doesn't lead you to believe that they definitely fuck shit?
I don't know anything about it.
Well, you should have gone not to a comedy college, but like me, gone to the most lefty arts, liberal, stupid university Canada has to offer.
Here's my new fact that I really like. So Canada essentially is two different countries.
We've got
it's-
plenty of time.
No. I'm not taking the time. I'm taking the levels.
Oh, okay.
Is two different countries. I had an accident on the road that'll be expunged from my record in 6 years because I am.
A white straight man.
No, I'm.
Sir?
I'm in Ontario, and every other province is not Quebec. If you have an accident in Quebec, it's expunged from your record in 3 years. They're like, yeah, that happens.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, you're smoking, you're driving with your knees, you're probably having a couple sandwiches. What the hell are we talking about here?
Here's the thing that's the best. So in every other province in Canada, it's a
yeah.
three-tier license. Unless you just go to university in Quebec and just transfer your license over.
Champions.
2 tiers, baby. You're looking at a man who was never instructed how to drive on a highway.
They literally are like, can you parallel park? Okay, sick.
Yeah.
Drive as fast as you want, motherfucker.
Yeah.
Have a couple drinks too, baby.
Yeah. Be loose. Come on.
Let's surf. Anyway, Jim Rome, Chris Everett. There's
They
a bit
are-
of tension.
Okay, hang on. But we got to talk about the set of the show, first of all. It
Sure.
is mid-90s.
Oh,
Know what
yeah.
they would do in the mid-90s for no reason? You're on a riser next to a weird off-earth tone, and you're at a wooden table.
Not even close to a fridge.
What if you need snacks?
Just warm up in my
Yeah,
hands.
I'm eating a fucking muesli bar like a cunt?
No.
I thought this was ESPN and not fucking Berkeley, man. Anyway, so they are on the ugliest set in the world. They are on an elevated, unnecessary platform. They are they're at a white table or a wooden table. They have weird doctors waiting room chairs. They conduct an interview. Jim Rome is called on the carpet almost immediately by Jim Everett about the fact that on Jim Rome's radio show, he refers to him as Chris Everett. Jim Rome responds by calling him Chris Everett like 80 times.
He goes, okay. Oh, this is. It's so fucking annoying. He
It's
goes,
so fucking annoying.
okay, Chris.
Yeah.
And then he's like, bet you don't call me that again. He goes, me, Chris.
Yeah.
And he's like, call me that one more time. You're gonna have to go to a break. And he goes, okay, Chris. And then he does. Jim Everett stands up. Jim Rome also stands up. Jim Everett pushes him over. And then there's this moment where Jim Everett's like, oh, I'm not actually going to hit him. So he just kind of shakes him like, I don't know, you're fucking really angry at a child and you want to hit them, but you don't, I guess.
It's actually a beautiful illustration of someone who was expecting a bouncer to run in. It's the most.
Yes.
It's a perfect example of, well, I've never gotten this far before. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. This is a real example of like,
he's a dog who caught a car. He doesn't know. He's
that's
like,
so funny.
because it's that moment
It's
where
a dog that caught a squirrel, unlike my cat when it catches squirrels, where it's like, yeah, slit its throat
Oh.
and then bring it to my owner, where I'm like, look, let's watch it die together. Oh, you always get me food. Well, now you get to watch something die, which is just as fun as eating.
it is. It's just one of those things when you own cats. It's just like, oh, you're.
I don't own cats.
Yeah, exactly.
I house one cat who once got me a mouse's face. I cleaned up a mouse's face. It fucking took the mouse's face off, and I was like, I wanted to put the mouse face over my cat's face, but it wouldn't let me.
There were a bunch of stray cats who lived on my street in London.
Straight cats?
Stray and stray.
No gay cats
Yeah,
in this
exactly.
house.
Whoop. Anyway, so
I already got one gay cat, right?
there
Jim
was this
Everett.
one all-white cat. There was like this a big abandoned lot. And used to hunt for rats there. And I once came back. It was like 3:00 in the morning, and this cat was covered in blood, just giving itself a bath. And I've literally never seen a creature more at peace. Like it was just like, another day full of murder.
Yeah, cats are like that's the whole thing where they say obviously civilization just got fucked. Like if everyone there was a horrible disease, everyone died, dogs would like take a while. Cats go feral in like 5 minutes. They're like, "You going to give me something to eat?" "No." Face eating it is.
Yeah, well, you can open this door? No, I eat you. Then I get the keys, then I leave. So basically, Jim Everett knocks Jim Rome onto the ground, and also basically knocks Jim Rome into being one of the most relevant broadcasters in American sports.
Dude, for the week, everyone did it. There was an SNL sketch about him. Very key thing here: Jim Rome did not get punished at all. Everyone, ESPN, main ESPN came out. Everyone did the whole thing where they go like, "This is repugnant," and then just, but fucking, there's no way he's missing a week.
No, like absolutely. Like, by the way,
Like you just said, they just launched ESPN.
they just launched ESPN2, and I guarantee this is what they were doing. Bad.
That's
Jim
jacking
Rome's
in-
bad.
that's jacking
Jim
off.
Rome's bad. Yeah,
That's
and they're
jacking off. He
Jacking
just jacked
They're
off.
jacking off because they're so
They're
excited.
jacking their big dicks.
They're jacking off their big ESPN dicks, and basically, so this is what it
And
is.
wide holes.
Yeah.
Whore holes.
Sure.
I said holes, but then I said whores, and I went with whore holes, I guess.
So essentially, what Jim Rome has since become is he has a 3 to 4 hour radio show. I used to have to put it on the wires when I worked at the Team 1200 in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, and we would get various people calling in. He would announce his phone number, which was different than the station radio phone number, and then people would still call into the station number and be like, "I'd like to speak to Jim," and it was always the same like 8 guys. And at a certain point, I would stop being like, "This isn't the number." The number is such and such and such jungle, because his whole thing is he refers to his show as the jungle because I hate,
to the jungle.
I fucking hate every radio guy is your dad trying to get you guys to smoke weed with him.
Really underrated movie is big fan. The Patton Oswalt.
Really underrated movie.
I really like
oh
that
my
movie.
God.
It's just about a guy who calls into a sports talk radio station and takes it too seriously. But sports talk radio, I was very into sports talk radio before podcasts were a thing. Like, I was listening to sports talk radio every fucking
Who the fuck was the
night.
guy in Toronto? The guy with the glasses? Bob fucking...
Bob McCown. He was
Bob
drive
McCown.
time. But I'm talking about, like, obviously I wasn't like,
You
I'm
weren't,
walking
you weren't,
home from school. I better get my radio going. I
you
was
weren't
like,
commuting.
no, I was like fucking the midnight guys, like Todd Wright All Night, where it's like no one would call in, so they just have to talk about bullshit for a while. And it was like he talked about how good American Pie was for like an entire
Oh my
segment.
God. Because you also have to remember...
He fucks a pie, dog.
The thing to remember is a lot of what's going on in our society is a reaction to there being a period of time where it's literally like, welcome to the girls are toilets hour. We are pissing in women.
We are the shit fuckers. I'm
Yeah.
shit. You're cunt.
Like, I loved the Opie and Anthony show, and the Opie and Anthony show was not on the air for 2 years because they encouraged a couple to have butt sex in St. Patrick's Cathedral, and then they broadcast that, and it's one of those things where you're like, you know, I see all sides to that dispute.
Well, here's the very, very important thing to remember, John, is that there are some other Jim Rome interviews. Have you heard of any of these other Jim Rome interviews?
No, I only know about the...
I am very excited. So this interview with David Stern,
Oh, is this the NBA one where David Stern implies that Jim Rome beats his wife?
yeah. I don't have YouTube Premium, so that's an ad. But anyway, here we're gonna get real low tech, and I'm just gonna play this for the listeners.
So just for context here, Jim Rome is part of... There's a long-running conspiracy theory that the NBA is rigged.
the draft, everyone thinks the draft lottery is rigged, stemming back to when the Knicks got Patrick Ewing in '85, and then the NBA had to basically buy the New Orleans franchise and another generational talent. Anthony Davis was up, and then he got drafted number 1. The Pelicans, this happened again when Anthony Davis asked out, and then they got Zion Williamson number 1. Like, there's a long theory where it's like basically they just make sure that, because obviously this is every single player wants to play in a big market because you get your salary and then you can make so much fucking money if you're like the best player in New York or LA or
Completely.
Miami, or like there's all these things. Like, no one wants to go to Toronto.
I would say, I mean, still no one wants to come to... That is changing with the internet because you can still be a big star and people sort of follow you around. But especially at this
Well,
time...
it's taxes too. It's
Yes.
taxes, and it's like it's fucked. But like the NBA players' lives are so good that them like having to get over the border for 5 seconds. But anyway, let's let everyone know. You can hear the interview.
The one other
verbatim.
thing I just want to say is that
Yep.
the conspiracy theory I think this is based off of is I believe if it wasn't the Patrick Ewing situation, I just think that he makes a comment about a cold envelope. The theory was something to do with they put one of the envelopes.
They froze
in
one
an
envelope.
and that was the envelope they're supposed to grab. So you just look for the cold envelope. Is the theory behind the conspiracy theory? Is any
Yes.
of this probably true? In some respects, I'm sure there is some sort of hinky nonsense going on to make sure that the NBA continues. Much like how the NFL, when they didn't like what Colin Kaepernick was saying, there was a concerted effort to silence him because these are a group of very wealthy people that would like to continue to make money. And fuck you, you're not telling us how to do it.
Yeah,
You know what I
one
mean?
of our sponsors is the Army. You're not doing that. Anyway,
Yeah.
here's the interview.
You know, New Orleans won the draft lottery, which of course produced the usual round of speculation that maybe the lottery was fixed. I know that you appreciate a good conspiracy theory as much as the next guy. Was the fix in for the lottery?
You know, I have two answers for that. I'll give you the easy one. No, and a statement. Shame on you for asking.
You know, I understand why you would say that to me, and I wanted to preface it by saying it respectfully. I think it's my job to ask because I think people wonder.
No, it's ridiculous, but that's okay.
I know that you think it's ridiculous, but I don't think the question is ridiculous because I know people think that.
Can you pause it for a
I'm
second?
I'm not saying.
Here's what I want to say about Jim Rome: is he's an incredibly good broadcaster because he has learned that times are changed, and a lot of these kind of guys would approach Jim Everett the same, David Stern, the same way you'd approach Jim Everett, and he is still being the same level of a dick. A, I actually kind of agree with Jim Rome, and B, he's doing it in a boxy business way, and I really enjoy how irritated David Stern is. Like his statement, I'm going to answer it in two ways. First of all, what? Also, if you're ever saying shame on you to someone, you've lost.
No,
No one has ever.
no. David Stern is not lost. David
Stern is lost.
David Stern is a
Stop. We all know you're a Stern stan.
dictator. Like someone after the Malice in the Palace, where they walked. One of the players, like in the Malice in the Palace, who went into the stands and tried to fight the fans, came in. Came into his office, and they have a Steven Jackson. I think he has a story about this, where essentially David Stern didn't look up. He was just writing something, and he went, "Are you trying to ruin this fucking game, you fucking idiot?" And he didn't look up, but he just went, "You have your suspension," and then didn't look up, and he just went, "Get out, my son." It was like a fucking movie villain, where it's like, whereas now, I feel like the players have way more. Like, basketball isn't as scary as it was back then. But anyway, I'm getting sidetracked.
We're not
getting to the good part. Also, David Stern, here's a very key thing. He doesn't like this. Very key here. He doesn't like this line of questioning. Jim Rome is going down. He was a lawyer. That leads us to what happens next.
I do, but I think it's my job to ask you that.
Have you stopped beating your wife yet?
Yeah, I don't know if that's fair.
Why is that?
Because I
There's no Jim Rome, by the way. No allegations of domestic abuse
So
ever.
what,
Never.
So what that is a brilliant legal strategy because essentially what David Stern is doing is he's muddying the waters of the questioning.
He's cucking Jim Rome.
Essentially, because know what Jim Rome does not tank the bait because the trick with that is you go, I've never hit my wife, and then but instead he goes, well, he's shutting down the questioning with the questioning. What is good about this is it's dick versus dick. It's just two different varieties. And by the way, this then did lead to a bunch of people speculating that Jim Rome does beat his wife.
Well, this is the thing. He does have a goatee, which is
this is his problem.
confirmation bias.
This is
that
not.
if you're in a suit with a goatee, the only reason is because you did something. Like
Plus-
gambling debt, no child support.
Again, also we're talking. He's Southern California, Orange County based, I believe.
Oh,
That's a lot. Oh yeah,
yeah.
you're in the ditch, Jimmy.
But he is more cordial, obviously, and less antagonistic, while still being antagonistic for the rest of his career after the Jim Everett interview. There's another one with Alonzo Mourning, which we won't get into the weeds because it's not really entertaining. But basically, Alonzo Mourning had to quit basketball because of kidney disease. Jim Rome was like, "So, you in the lab trying to get back?" And Alonzo Mourning goes, "No, I barely survived a debilitating disease. I just want to raise money for the Kidney Foundation." And Jim Rome basically goes, "Ugh, okay." And then
my
people
God.
are like,
Well,
"That's
Jim-
unprofessional."
Jim
It's
Rome
like,
also
yeah,
put
maybe,
a
but-
bounty out on Gordie Howe when he did a charity hockey game.
Yes, someone end this, and he's like, "Oh, it was just for fucking like."
He said, "Someone end this nonsense and get that old man off the ice." And also, you have to remember, hockey is there's
Put this
they're
old fool back to reality.
That's what it was.
And then he's like, "It's a joke." Oh, also he owns a lot of horses, which is like that goatee be goateeing, dog.
He loves, but he hates soccer, which has been a big problem.
But that
for him.
that makes sense. That's
Because
in
it's-
line with the goatee.
Completely. It's in line with the goatee. It's also in line with the time he was in sports, particularly in American sports. There was this sort of like, soccer's not a real sport. The entire world plays it. It's the largest sport that's ever been invented. Shut the fuck up. A fair point.
And,
And-
this is also key is that if you're in talk radio, you can cherry pick who your callers are to make you look reasonable. So Jim Rome's entire career is making him look like the reasonable one, but still kind of a fucking badass after. And it super successful. Talk radio, I guess, if you want to say, which we always do this, is another form of like a way to have that following that would be like an online following before
Completely.
having online following.
I also think that Jim Rome's an interesting one in that I don't think he ever thought there would become a time where he would come across like a dinosaur, and we are now entering into that time, as you say, because now it's a much more athlete-focused world. You have people like Stephen A. Smith who are like, I like the Eagles. You know what else I like? Tupperware. It still burps when you open it. Why don't Tupperware have a burp?
Every single time an athlete, not
Why-
every single
why?
time, but now it's like you're 34, they're starting to cut down your minutes. 7 years ago, you were a star. It's time to just tell all the stories from the locker room from 10 years ago about all the guys who were out of the league and have
Mhm.
that guy on the podcast. And that is now, it's like wrestling.
Yeah. What's crazy is
And
everything.
wrestling discovered that, where it's like shoot interviews for those of you that don't watch wrestling. It was like every single wrestler, as soon as they're done wrestling, or even they're done in a specific company,
Oh, yeah.
they just do a tattletale interview. And that wrestling took that from Soap Opera Digest,
yeah.
which is just every single soap opera actor would just talk about like here was the storylines, all this shit.
And it's an interesting one because I think the other benefit that we haven't talked about with Jim Rome is where he was based. He is based in Southern California. So he was also a sports source for a lot of celebrities. So he also benefited from his show would have a lot of caller interaction and build that audience. And in that were like noted at the time famous sports fan. The biggest one being Jay Moore, who competed in something called the Smack Off on his show, which is he has this thing where you write fake letters to do with sports and then you call in, or you'll call in and make a weird comment and you talk smack. And then they have a tournament to discern who is the best smack talker of the year. And Jay Moore used to enter it with the callers and never won. He always got beaten by callers, which is pretty satisfying. And that, again, benefits Jim Rome because he's getting this rub of media talking about him in other markets. He can grow other markets and stuff like that. You have to think about
And it benefits Jay Moore because all these fucking psychos will show up to your show now.
not only that, Jay Moore ended up replacing Jim Rome in Los Angeles when Jim Rome moved radio broadcasting syndicators. Like he went to Fox Sports or something, and then Jay Moore took over whatever the fuck it was. But yeah, that's exactly what happened. I think he went back to ESPN, I think is what happened. Because I think Jim Rome went back to ESPN because the producer of the segment where whispering in Jim Rome's ear, call him Chris again, literally became the head of ESPN. So they were like, hey, Jim, would you like to come back? We are actually building a building in the shape of your head. Yeah, that's right. I want to walk through my own mouth like my mom does. My wife. My mom is my wife.
I used to listen to the Jim Rome show, on the radio in high school a bit during the summer, and because obviously I was around during the day, and it was fine. I don't know. It was like he was very good, and the reason you get this persona is because he has to pull entertaining comments out of all these people calling into his show. So it makes sense to take on this persona, and then obviously the persona becomes who you are. And he rose to the ranks really well. He was literally an intern in 1986 and has his own show by 1988 and is syndicated by the early 90s and on television by the mid 90s.
He's
Just fucking immediately has it.
an incredible broadcaster, really, really smart in the branding of his show. Top of the hour, always lead in with Welcome to the Jungle. The rest of the other segments, it's always Lust for Life. And then the ending show is up. The ending song is Up All Night, so you know that that's the last segment of the day. And that does not seem like that is a big thing, but radio is much like podcasting, is an incredibly intimate way of communicating with an audience. It's much more individualistic, and so those songs become associated not only with those moments in the show, but with the show. So all of the people that are going out living their lives, every time they hear Lust for Life, they're going, "Oh, I gotta listen to Jim Rome again." So it's stuff like that where it's just he's been able to hold on to this audience. He is much less controversial than he is now. He had a TV career that was never, I think, as successful as his radio career. Like, there was no other moment except for the Chris Everett moment and David Stern a little bit that sort of captured the imagination.
I'll say it once to say it again. Like, the alt-right ruined guys like Jim Rome because you can't be...
Absolutely.
You can't be controversial anymore without people thinking you want to strap up some fucking Doc Martens and have a fucking
That's
riot.
true. Like, it doesn't seem that fucking crazy where he's just like, I think the Bills are kind of shitty. And they're like, yeah, man, the other guy on the other sports radio station just said, I'll tell you why the Bills are bad. The vaccine!
Yeah, exactly. You can't you can't be that in your face, especially like just a lot of the interviews he does. Oh, also some fallout of the people he had the controversial interviews with. Within 2 years, David Stern was no longer the commissioner of the NBA. I think this is obviously just me saying whatever, but I think either A, Stern had an exit strategy in place by that time and was like, fuck this. I'm tired of fucking answering this question. If the draft is rigged, I've answered it for fucking 900 million years.
Yeah, the
Also-
answer is yes. We did it. Shut up.
Also,
Wait, you don't like the Knicks being somehow so bad when they had Patrick Ewing?
Also, Bill Simmons, by the time of that interview, has popularized, the draft's rigged. Like, draft is rigged. He's a big fucking tinfoil hat guy. Like, he just reports those things as fact. He doesn't interview the people to get confirmation. He just goes, yeah, it's rigged.
So it's really interesting is Bill Simmons. I'm glad we're bringing up Bill because Bill Simmons he out Jim Rome in a very weird way, and that Bill Simmons' entire energy it doesn't feel like he's being provocative and getting in your face, but it's exactly that where he just says wild shit like it's true. Like, yeah, everyone knows Tom Brady's half horse, he's half machine.
Well, Bill Simmons is very good at, like, I'm the smartest guy who watches sports at your bar. There's still the whole thing of, like, we're still watching sports at a bar together. Like, there's no, like, numbers in this. I'm just going to say shit. But I do watch every game. You do have to, like, admit that.
But Bill Simmons also talks in a way where it always feels like he's about to really reveal something. Like, he's like, let me say this about Lawrence Taylor. His earring that's a lightning bolt is nice.
Well, the other thing about Bill Simmons is, like, he was one of the first in the wave of Bostonification of all this goddamn shit.
As a Patriots fan, I love
there's
it.
a before and after of The Departed, you know?
There is oh my God, there is a BDAD, isn't there? Before Departed, after Departed?
Oh,
That is
God.
such a fucking great point, baby.
No, wait, is it? Maybe it's not that. Maybe it's Ben Affleck and Matt Damon. Maybe it's fucking Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, and then all the Boston teams turn into like amazing franchises.
Yeah,
where
oh
you
my-
have to pay attention to Boston. Where
And also, what was so great about that time as someone that half cares about the New England Patriots, when all of the Deflategate and all that happened, we had like a Pravda on steroids. How dare you, Roger Goodell, accuse any of these men that have been known to be very bad at doing anything that would constitute moral things because they're being ruled over by a goblin in a hoodie named Bill. No way would we ever cheat. And it's like, I loved the controversy around the Patriots because almost immediately Bill Simmons was like, I'll tell you why they did it. And they did do it. And they were right to do it because everyone does it. And it was like, wait, what? So your excuse is we all break the rules so no one breaks the rules? Yeah, we broke the rules the best, so we actually get to do it.
yeah, it's I mean, obviously there's cheating in sports, and you know what? Jim Rome owns a bunch of horses.
That I think
He's
is the weirdest. If
One of the
anyone-
greatest. He's one of the greatest fucking talkers in talking history.
I would never buy a horse.
You would never buy a horse.
Never. I would never do it.
Why?
That just seems, that is so much unnecessary admin. Like, I guarantee, like,
Well, if you own a horse, you're not taking care of it yourself. You pay people.
I don't want to do that. I don't want to need you. There's going to be way more people than you expect. Like, you're thinking, okay, how many for a horse? 5? I guarantee you get your 5, and then one of them's like, well, you don't have a phalanger? And you're like, what the fuck's a phalanger? And you're like, about $80,000 a year. Fuck that. No, I'm not.
I'd love to. I think owning a horse and having all the people like what's the alternative to owning a horse?
A
fucking
car.
yacht?
I just own a car.
No, it's less environmentally friendly, to be honest. Jim Rome.
I don't give a shit, bro.
Jim Rome is green.
I don't
He
know.
makes green. He spends it. He is green.
I don't know if that's true. Cause
Yeah, he
again,
probably has a house that he has a rocket attached to, just to because he wants to fucking
it's one of those
push
things
some more
where-
gas into the
so
universe.
Orange County isn't necessarily a bad place, but it's one of those
The
things
OC?
where it's like you have to understand that if someone's like, I still live in the OC. You're kind of like, it's like I'm from Ottawa. If someone says, Ottawa born and raised, that's you got to watch out here. Like, we're not sure. We're not. This
That guy sucked a couple MPs.
yeah, like this guy's either got a dining room table in his dining room or he's got like 8 people doing nitrous and about to eat each other's assholes. And are those the only 2 options? Yeah. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Well, it'd be
It's one of those-
difficult for Jim Rome not to be a dinosaur now. The man is in his 60s.
Still also dying at black. I got to tell you, I really am enjoying
That's why it's shocking he's not Italian.
the vanity of the late stage baby boomers. Just because I thought we were all going gray. Gray is great. Guess again. Hazelnut brown until I'm 80 years
Sorry, he
old.
is not in his 60s. 1964. This guy was on television. Like, he's barely 30 by the time of that interview.
Oh yeah, no, he was a prodigy, and he identified a gap in the market and made it so. Because as ESPN grew, he amplified himself and jumped. Because he's also gone back and forth between Fox Sports Net and ESPN a million times for exactly that reason. Is he knows his value, and he also has his audience. There's a swath of people that don't necessarily care about sports unless like Jim Rome's going, yeah. Oh my God, remember Scott Farrell? Do you remember that weird guy, the gravelly voice? It was the gravelly voice satellite guy that was all about hockey fights. So. He talks like that. It was fucking awful.
What was it called? Jim Rome, 2.5 million listeners in 1998 by his peak. He releases an album that's just sound bites from the show, which is crazy to me because it's like the listeners are probably so pumped they made this album, but they get no money from it, and Jim Rome just gets to fucking Scrooge McDuck.
Yeah. Hey, everyone, you listen to the Jim Rome Show. I'm currently broadcasting from the top of an Appalachian pony.
It's true, though, if someone was like, listen, you don't get any rights, but we're giving your money to a horse, I'd be like, I'm less mad now.
To a horse?
Yeah, the horse gets the money.
No.
If I'm like, if someone won the fucking Kentucky Derby and I was like, my horse helped pay for that.
Your horse is not fucking winning the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, because his big dick would be fucking in
That's
the dirt.
right. It's a wind blocker, baby.
All right, now get hard and run. That's what my horse does. That's why my horse is called Big Dick Horse Guy.
Do you think Bill Simmons and Jim Rome hate each other? Here's my theory. Yeah. Those guys really strike me as they do not like each other. They have a weird unspoken reason that makes no sense, like that when that guy worked at ESPN, he always used the far right urinal. He knew that was mine. You know what I mean? Like, it was just one. There is nothing more petty than men who work together in their mid-30s who get successful 40s and now are the two pillars of their industry in their 50s. They fucking. LA is no greater place than to see this LA stand-up because there are blood feuds between like such weird people of like, that motherfucker used to take my parking spot back when we both worked at CAA. I will crush his clients. Like, this is currently happening in comedy, which is Bert Kreischer had to fire his agent because it was revealed his agent and another agent fucking hated each other over a thermostated Gersh in the early 90s. No one rules more than successful straight whites who have made it to where they think they need to go, because now it's vengeance time for the pettiest infraction. That fucking girl didn't give me back my crayon when we were 10. I'm buying her nail business and burning it down.
Yeah, there was like never mind.
Say it.
Oh, there was an agent at JFL who was just talking about how, I had met Rife when he was younger. Nothing special. And then just being so nice to their client that was there. Like, hey, like just full voice switch. But I did understand him because he was saying like, yeah, I'm too old. I don't want to go to this party. And the young agent was like, I do. And he's like, oh, good. You could see the thing where it's like, I can't even complain to this fucking keener. God damn it. Then that crosses boundaries when you try and complain and someone's too much of a keener. They pretend that everything's great, and you're like, shut the fuck up.
There is nothing better in the world than an agent who says exactly. That hugely successful guy. I had him earlier on, and I was unable to see the potential.
That successful guy, he sucks, not me. Anyway,
Yeah.
Jim Rome. Woo! One thing I want to circle back to is, what do you think the dividing point is? Because Jim Rome, like you said, he's between ESPN. He has a long run on CBS Radio. What do you think it is about Jim Rome that doesn't click as far as being a TV guy? Because clearly who he was in that Jim Everett interview becomes what sports television is now, which is just people loudly saying things, and he's not on television.
I can tell you exactly why. I think he was a bit too early, and he becomes sort of the example of like, be careful with that guy. He's going to do something crazy to you. Plus, his energy doesn't work that great on screen. He's got a great voice, and it's much more descriptive. Watching his TV shows are really weird because it's like it's just odd. It's also he does not play well with others. He is not good group broadcasting. Like if you watch,
Yeah, they would like because these guys are all gears. Like Stephen A. Smith, Skip Bayless, Shannon Sharp. All these guys are like swapped in and out.
Yeah.
Versus he has the Jim Rome show. The callers are called the Clones. If you look on Jim Rome's fandom, there's really long stuff about this. So this stuff all does make sense. About why Jim Rome is, and maybe I don't know. This is I haven't read any interviews or anything with them, but maybe it's just the fact that he just likes having a daily sports show, even though that sounds insane to me.
I think that's probably 100% true. It's also he probably loves the millions of dollars they pay him so he can keep himself in multitude of horses.
Yeah, man, and talk radio. It's so funny how it's cyclical because I've seen some podcasts where they take calls and it's everything's cyclical, where it's and I do believe this to be true, is that it's fun to talk, having comedian on comedian podcasts or whatever podcast, but there's something that is just getting someone who will call into a talk radio station. There's no one more entertaining and unhinged than someone who's dial what number?
Yeah.
I got nothing to do for 4 hours. I'll wait on fucking hold.
Yeah. Time for this person who I already think is my friend to hear my voice.
Hello, I've known you for a long time, and I would make love to you, even if you, let's just say, I don't know, I'm looking at the top of your head right now. I have several opinions about your life, and here's your mailbox.
Yeah, I just wanted to let you know what your address is, and also I know your blood type.
All right, that's it for this fucking
Everyone,
goddamn
if you're
episode.
Jim Rome, give us money. I want to ride your horse. Suck my ass.
We need horse money. Bye-bye.